When it comes to the term supermodel, who do you think of? Gisele Bündchen, Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, or Kate Moss? Since the term supermodel was coined, many stunning, hot-bodied, and skillful beauties have earned this honor. So, who was the world's first supermodel? There is a lot of controversy about this point. Some believe it was Lisa Fontagrives, some think it was Janice Dickinson, and others believe it was Gia Karangi. Lisa Fontagrives passed away peacefully in New York at the age of 80. Janice Dickinson remains active in the public eye. As for Gia Karangi, her life was as brilliant as a shooting star but tragically short-lived. In 1986, at the age of 26, she died from complications related to AIDS, and not a single person from the fashion world attended her funeral. Her life was like a glamorous tragedy. Today, I will tell you the story of Gia Karangi. Gia Karangi was born on January 29, 1960, in Philadelphia, USA. She was the third and youngest child of restaurant owner Joseph Karangi and homemaker Kathleen Karangi. She also had two older brothers. Her father was of Italian descent, while her mother had Irish and Welsh heritage. During Gia's upbringing, two events left profound and indelible shadows on her soul. The first was that Gia was sexually abused by a man when she was 5 years old. This matter brought her tremendous harm, causing fear to accompany her throughout the entire process of growing up. The second issue is her troubled, dysfunctional family. Gia's parents' marriage was unstable and filled with violence. Ultimately, they chose to divorce when she was 11 years old. Although Gia had a close and highly dependent relationship with her mother, it's puzzling that her mother left her with her ex-husband and departed with her two sons. Afterward, her mother remarried, causing Gia to be torn between her parents and two households. She received very little attention from those around her and even lacked the desired care from her longing mother. Later on, some people familiar with Gia attributed the instability in her adult life and her dependence on drugs to her difficult childhood. While attending Abraham Lincoln High School, Gia gradually became rebellious. She became fascinated with David Bowie and established a connection with the Bowie Kids, a group of devoted David Bowie fans who emulated his eccentric yet glamorous style. Gia would often watch David Bowie's performances with them. At the same time, she would visit underground gay clubs and bars in Philadelphia and develop affection for other girls. However, later, Gia's friends recalled her rebellious phase, stating that many of her actions were merely attempts to gain her mother's attention. All she had ever wanted was her mother's affection, but she felt she had never truly received it. By the time Gia was 17 or 18 years old, she began to work part-time at some nightclubs, which also laid the groundwork for her later modeling career. In the summer of 1978, local photographer and hairstylist Maurice Tannenbaum happened to visit the nightclub where Gia was working and immediately noticed her in the crowd. He invited Gia to strike some poses on the dance floor and captured these enchanting moments by pressing the camera shutter. Later on, Maurice Tannenbaum passed these photos to Arthur Elgort, a photographer for Bloomingdale's. The dramatic twist occurred. Gia Karangi almost overnight became a sensation in New York, becoming a local celebrity, while she remained completely unaware of it in distant Philadelphia. At that time, the American fashion industry was filled with various slim, blonde-haired girls. Although they were sexy and charming, over time, everyone had grown tired of this type of model's aesthetic. Gia's deep and melancholic Italian style, dark hair, perfect figure, and face were like a beam of sunshine that swept away the gloom, instantly captivating everyone. Gia's modeling career started unexpectedly like this, and it proceeded more smoothly than imagined. At the beginning of her work, she directly collaborated with the most outstanding individuals. Later, Gia moved to New York City and signed with Wilhelmina Cooper, the legendary fashion agent and owner of a modeling agency. Wilhelmina treated her very well, treating her just like a mother would treat her child. Her first major shoot, published in October 1978, was with top fashion photographer Chris von Wangenheim, who had her pose nude behind a chain-link fence with makeup artist Sandy Linter. By the end of 1978, which was also Gia's first year in New York, she had already become a well-known model. Gia had become a favorite model of many fashion photographers, including von Wangenheim, Francesco Scavillo, Arthur Elgort, and more. By 1979, just a year into her career, Gia had already started appearing frequently on the covers of major fashion magazines like Vogue and Cosmopolitan. Moreover, well-known luxury brands such as Dior, Armani, Versace, and Yves Saint Laurent, among others, began approaching her, inviting Gia to be their spokesperson or to participate in their fashion and luxury goods exhibitions. At that time, she was already earning a minimum of $100,000 per year, a price far higher than other models of that era. Her influence surpassed that of any other model at the time, leading many fashion historians to refer to her as the world's first supermodel. Beauty, money, fame, things that others tirelessly seek but are easily obtained by Gia. However, on her journey to becoming a supermodel, luck and opportunities alone are not enough. Gia happens to possess exceptional professional talent. She once said that a successful model must be very skilled at creating emotions. And this is precisely her forte, externally captivatingly beautiful, yet emotionally distant. Always wearing an expression of "I don't care about anything." A renowned fashion photographer of that time once commented about Gia in this way: "There was something she had, no other girl has got it. I've never met a girl who had it. She had the perfect body for modeling, perfect eyes, mouth, and hair. And, to me, the perfect attitude, I don't give a damn." Perhaps this is also the reason why photographers are eager to collaborate with her. She can cleverly create the feelings that photographers want in front of the camera, portraying the appearance they hope to see. And the fact proves that this attitude is both attractive and dangerous for Gia. Perhaps because of her don't care about anything attitude, there are also aspects that make photographers feel tricky about her. Working with Gia is not easy. Sometimes when she feels uncomfortable or in a bad mood, she will leave the shooting location. And if she doesn't like her hairstyle, she might even cancel several weeks' worth of work as a result. What's even worse is that since around the age of 13, when she started using marijuana, she established an inescapable connection with drugs. Even though she transformed from a lonely girl in a broken family into a superstar model adored by all, the absence of family affection, the yearning for love, and the childhood trauma and inner loneliness continue to surround her every moment. To cope with these negative emotions, her dependency on drugs has grown stronger. From marijuana to cocaine, and later moving on to heroin injections. Regarding the matter of drug addiction, she admits that part of the reason is her feeling of deep loneliness. After work every day, she always has to return to her cold apartment alone. Her love life is also not going smoothly. She is always pursuing those girls she admires, but due to various reasons, she keeps missing opportunities with them. "I am finally really starting to dig being different. Maybe I am discovering who I am. Or maybe I'm just stoned again," she once self-mockingly said. In March 1980, Gia's agent, mentor, and friend Wilhelmina Cooper passed away due to lung cancer. This plunged her into deeper struggles and deeper addiction. Gia's addiction soon began to affect her work. She became irritable, would leave the shooting location to buy drugs, or even fall asleep in front of the camera. During one of her final location shoots for American Vogue, Gia had prominent red swelling at the crook of her arm where she injected heroin. Despite being airbrushed, some of the photos of Gia published in the November 1980 issue of Vogue still displayed noticeable needle marks. In November 1980, Gia left Wilhelmina Models and signed with Ford Models, but she was dismissed a few weeks later. From that time on, her career plummeted rapidly, and modeling jobs quickly ceased. Many of her friends in the fashion industry refused to talk to her, fearing that associating with her would harm their careers. To overcome her drug addiction, she returned to Philadelphia in February 1981, along with her mother and stepfather. There, Gia underwent a 21-day detox program, but it was unsuccessful. In March 1981, under the influence of alcohol and cocaine, she was arrested and detained after crashing her car into a fence in the suburbs. After her release, she briefly signed with a new agency called Legends and went to Europe for sporadic work. In May of the same year, at just 21 years old, Gia underwent a hand surgery. According to Stephen Fried, she had injected herself in the same place so many times that there was an open infected tunnel leading into her vein. At the end of 1981, Despite still struggling with drug addiction, Gia was determined to make a comeback in the fashion industry. She promptly signed with Elite Model Management. This time, due to her past as a top model, there were still other clients willing to hire her. In April 1982, Scavillo photographed her for the cover of Cosmopolitan, marking her final appearance on the cover of an American magazine. Sean Burns, Scavillo's longtime assistant, later said, "What she was doing to herself finally became apparent in her pictures. I could see the change in her beauty. There was an emptiness in her eyes." Gia later collaborated mainly with photographer Albert Watson and also worked as a model for department stores. However, during a photo shoot towards the end of 1982, she felt very uncomfortable and left before any usable photos could be taken. Around this time, Gia joined an outpatient methadone program, but she soon started using heroin again. By the end of 1982, only a few clients were willing to hire her. Gia's final photo shoot was for German mail-order clothing company Otto GmbH in Tunisia, but she was sent home during the shoot due to heroin use. In early 1983, Gia left New York. Most of Gia's income from work was spent on drugs, to the extent that she had to find other jobs to sustain her life. In December 1984, she was sent to Eagleville Hospital for intensive drug rehabilitation treatment. After the treatment concluded, she found a job at a clothing store, but she didn't stay there for long and quit the job. Later, she found a job as a cashier and subsequently worked at a self-service restaurant in a convalescent home. By the end of 1985, Gia started using drugs again and engaged in sex work in Atlantic City. By December 1985, Gia was admitted to the Warminster General Hospital due to bilateral pneumonia. A few days later, she was diagnosed with AIDS-related complex, as AIDS was still a newly emerging epidemic at the time and there was very limited understanding of it within the academic community. With no effective treatment options available, those infected with the disease suffered until their death. Gia was no exception. In the fall of 1986, Gia was found beaten and raped on the street. Subsequently, on October 18, she was admitted to Hahnemann University Hospital in downtown Philadelphia. 1 month later, on November 18, 1986, Gia Karanji passed away at Hahnemann Hospital due to AIDS-related complications, at the young age of 26, becoming one of the first well-known women to die from this disease. Her funeral took place on November 23 at a small funeral home in Philadelphia, with no one from the fashion industry in attendance. However, in the final moments of her life, her mother finally fulfilled Gia's childhood wish and stayed by her side. A few weeks later, Francesco Scavillo, a famous photographer who had worked with Gia many times, sent a mass card upon hearing the news. People have not forgotten about this beautiful girl. In 1998, HBO adapted the story of Gia Karanji into the movie Gia, starring Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie admitted that she despised Gia at first, but in the end, confessed to the New York Times in 1997, "I'd like to date Gia. I'd want to be her lover." It seems that Gia has spent a lifetime trying to find something to fill the void in her heart after her mother's departure, and she also wants to rid herself of the shadows from her childhood. Or perhaps she simply wants to find an outlet for her life but unfortunately got involved with drugs. She stumbled and struggled to grow, unsteadily became a star, and then fell haphazardly. When a new star rises, they are watched by the masses, but after a megastar falls, only a sigh remains.